Hello and welcome to the Stop Down Photography Podcast, Episode 2. I'm your host, Scott Davenport, and today's topic is make art and make memories. The word regret is not a word I normally associate with my photography. I don't regret getting up early for sunrise shoots. I don't regret the time I've put into training or the hours of practice I've spent with the camera improving my craft. I don't regret my gear choices. Well, all right. I don't regret most of my gear choices, but I do regret one thing, which is missed opportunities. Missed opportunities and avoiding them is something that shaped my landscape photography. And I don't mean, I'm talking about like the whole, fear of missing out FOMO thing where I wish I was in Vietnam or I wish I was hiking the Faroe Islands or something like that. In that sense, if you get pathological about the thinking, missed opportunities are happening all the time. But I'm talking about just there's a lot of things going on in the world, in your own personal world, and to not have missed opportunities, I distill it down to one thing. The only photo that I miss is the one when I stayed on the couch. Life is busy, and I'm sure you can relate to that. So for me, often I have to schedule my field trips, whether or not I'm going to have great conditions for landscape photography. I avoid the missed opportunity simply by getting outside with the camera. I'll largely ignore the weather forecast when I have scheduled a shoot and get outside anyway. And I don't always come back with a great photo, but I've never regretted the attempts. I get some exercise, I get to be outside, that part of it's all good. The law of averages kicks in. Eventually, you keep doing that, you're going to build up a set of really, really great photos. And related to that, my field work got more streamlined. It's a nice fringe benefit. When I go out, now I take fewer photos than I did, say, 3 years ago. With a higher keeper rate, my eye got better. I can detect this type of photo is going to look better in these conditions. My composition skills have improved. And also I know when I've got, air quotes, the shot and can move on to another location or another subject. I don't spend more time than is necessary with the particular composition. So, I guess the corollary to that is I also know when I've exhausted the light in a situation, or I just know that this scene is given what it's going to give, and there's nothing I'm going to be able to do to force being able to get a better photo. So I've gotten better at creating art, the compelling landscape, interesting subject, getting more particular about when to press the shutter. And all of that has been great for my landscape work. However, that skill has come at a cost, or at least a potential cost, and it's a cost I need to keep in check. So maybe 3 to 4 years ago, I was on a trip. I don't actually remember where, but I remember what I was doing, or more accurately, what I wasn't doing, and I wasn't taking photos. Now, that in and of itself isn't unusual. You just heard me talk about. You get to a place, the light's not right, you don't have to press the shutter. You can't force the photo to show up. The problem is this trip was a family vacation. And I caught myself and I realized I was dismissing photos and not taking them because the light wasn't right, or it's midday and it's not good lighting. The scene was too crowded or it's too busy. I'd fallen into a trap. I was applying my landscape artist workflow to a non-landscape situation. This is a vacation. I'm on vacation. The photos that I'm taking do not need to be works of art. I needed to be making memories. The photos that my family will look at years from now and remember the trip that we were on, the walks through the city, the long line at the museum, the goofy faces we make for no reason. Nothing. These aren't things that I'm necessarily going to share with the world, but I'm definitely going to share them with my family. Gotta take them. And I have some regrets about photos that I didn't take because my artistic bar was set too high. I was in the artist mode and not just in the everyday man, enjoying life, spending time with your family mode. So now, whether it's out on a family trip, out on a road trip, just hanging around the house, I have to consciously switch off my landscape photographer mode and then become the memory maker. And for me, it's an important distinction to make. I want to make sure I avoid falling into the trap of missing photos simply because the conditions were not quote unquote right. The conditions for making memories are the people that you want in the memories are there, or you're visiting someplace and it's highly unlikely you will ever return. You take the photo. That's what you do. That just has to be done. So that's the mental side of making art and making memories. I have to go through a mental shift to make sure I don't just arbitrarily dismiss photos. Flip it around. Think about when I was the photographer in the 2010s or even 1990s, where I just enjoyed taking photos of everything. And go and do that. Digital's cheap. You can throw things away later if you need to. But also, I want the image quality. I want a good photo for the memories that I'm making. For me, my smartphone, the camera you always have with you, it's like 4 years old, and it's not the best camera to have. Newer camera phones shred what I have, and eventually I will upgrade it. But I've got a few things that I do to help me get a better photo and still be lightweight and nimble and not have to carry around like my landscape kit. That would not make sense for making memories. So a few things. The first one is, with the family, somebody else has got a phone, and everybody in my family has got a better phone than me. So everyone gets tapped. We're all the family photographers. We're all going to capture the memories. And so we'll just use the best device around and we'll get better photos. I will also carry a very compact, lightweight camera. For me, that's a Sony a6400. It's got a little pancake 16-50 lens on it. So I'm getting like a 24-70 full frame range. And it's nice. It's great. It's versatile. It captures very good raw photos. It captures very good video, which that's a bonus. And in a super pinch, I'll use a Sony RX0. This is like a GoPro sized camera. And so it's, shove it in a bag, any corner that you can find where you're, a jacket pocket, anything like that. And it's, incredibly durable. It's waterproof, and it does the same thing. It captures good video. It captures good raw photos. And those are just a few things that help me be able to make the memories with that mental shift, and then a lighter piece of gear to be able to capture a quality image. But getting back to, why do I think this is important? Why do I think making memories and making art is important? The artist side, I'm comfortable with. I got that down. I make landscapes. I like to make things that people enjoy looking at. But for the memory side of it, if I'm really, really honest with myself, it's the memory maker role that's going to make the photos that last. Those are the ones that the next generation of my family are actually going to want to have, to remember experiences and not 75,000 photos that Dad took of the ocean. I have a news story for you this week. It ran in Petapixel in late December of 2019. It's called Use Composition to Enhance Your Candid Photos. And the article had a short video and 5 tips for your candid photos. But there were several that I think related very well to this make memories theme of the podcast. One in particular that I found to be very useful was, don't be so clinical with your composition. And the notion behind the tip was, it's okay to break compositional rules and not worry about that as much with a candid photo. If you've got a strong subject, in the case of making memories, it's likely one of your family members. Well then, hey, great, you've already got the subject that people are going to connect with. Don't worry about the composition as much. Distill it down. It's take the shot, bank the memory. And it's actually a little more of a struggle than I thought it might be. I tried this a little bit earlier this week. Because I've spent so many years refining my compositional eye, and I have to buck all of that muscle memory sometimes. For a guy like me, a landscape photographer, I go out to a landscape, the first thing I'm doing is walking around for 10 minutes just thinking about what I might want to set up and photograph. It's very different from this memory maker mental role to shift into, where it's much more see something happen, take the photo. So I think maybe if you're more of a street photographer, this may seem like second nature to you, or if you're a fashion photographer or wedding photographer, something where the dynamics of a scene are continually changing and those moments are very fleeting. You just capture, capture, capture. One of the thoughts that comes to mind as I'm just speaking this is I could shoot slightly wider and then give myself a little latitude in post-processing to refine a composition with a crop. I guess the takeaway for me is it's okay to make mistakes. Digital's cheap. Fire off a few of them. Just make sure you bank the memory and worry less about the composition. A special thank you to supporters on Patreon. I cannot express my gratitude to you enough. Your support is what makes this podcast possible, and it's helping thousands of other photographers enjoy photography. If you're interested in learning more about the Patreon community, check the show notes. There's also a button on all the pages of stopdownpodcast.com where you can learn more about it. And that's going to wrap up this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, let me know somehow. You got some topic you'd like to hear discussed on the show, visit stopdownpodcast.com. There's a contact form. Send it my way. And if you enjoyed today's podcast, please rate and review it on Apple Podcasts. You can also find episodes at stopdownpodcast.com, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, my name's Scott Davenport. Have fun.